nature needed a way to dynamically interact with environments. So we get what we have now. Nature needed a way to dynamically or better communicate, or nature needed a way to communicate, okay, with itself, between each other, between distinctions, between systems, okay? So what we get is language, the eventual development of language. Nature needed a way for its systems to dynamically and effectively sustain themselves, okay? To look after themselves, to upkeep. So what does it do? It creates emotion. It creates a connection between the system. It creates something. It creates an awareness of significance. So what are we getting at here? We're getting at very popular ideas between the benefits, the pros and cons of having a birth and development process that mammals share, an exclusive one, or looking at the ideas of communal, looking at the types where multiple eggs are born, where the offspring tackles survival, and at least an initial survival through numbers, volume, right? And many don't make it, but many more do. And so we're trying to keep it simple, right? For humans, the female, she goes through a very distinctive, very amazing birthing process, right? Not only is the actual moments, the actual part of giving birth, not only is that big time, as almost any woman will tell you, but the whole process up to that, okay? The whole 9 months, generally speaking, 9 months, right? What we're getting at is a clever way as well. Not only is there a biological benefit happening, obviously it is a process of how to develop and form, okay, a life. But also the emotional connection to that. We can't overlook these things. The emotional connection that the mother has, okay, by going through all those stages, all those months, and then to endure in such a vivid, such a dominant process of actually giving birth, okay, that forms an intricate connection, one of the most intricate and amazingly bonded connections we witness in all of life, not just for humans, but for any organisms that have that similar process. It's not the only way, but we understand there's more to it than just it happens that way because that's how, okay, the fetus develops and blah, blah, blah. There's more to it than just that, okay? Because what nature needs, remember, everything is funneling toward, or everything can always be described towards survival, okay, improvement, efficiency, effectiveness, those type of terms. This process seems to be quite effective in terms of what would be the offspring's greatest asset in survival, okay? Fully formed adults, fully functionable, okay, organisms that the offspring is not yet, okay? Who could protect that offspring better, okay, than, a fully formed? Who could teach that offspring better than its parents? Okay, so that the offspring, because that would reduce the chances of the offspring learning through mistakes. And although learning through mistakes happens, okay, we don't want we don't want the bulk of the offspring's development to happen through learning through mistakes, because that poses an increased risk of fatal mistakes. We want a nice combination of that, okay? So what we're looking at is, what we have discussed through these videos is that nature, we can look at nature in terms of behaviors for it, okay? We can look at nature in terms of a behavior, a way, a mechanism, a mechanic, okay, that's trying to solve things, that's dynamically interacting, okay, that is a way, that is some kind of aware, okay, process. Because what we're trying to also understand is that nature isn't separate from the thing that nature is interacting with, from the thing that nature is trying to get better at. Nature isn't separate from those things. So it is so understandable that we have a very complicated discussion here as well. Okay, which we're trying to talk about a behavior. We're trying to talk about an internal behavior in a way, where there is no, while also understanding an external, okay, identity occurring as well, while ultimately understanding that there is no such thing, no actual thing as external, that it's all internal, or it's all, still grouped or coming from the nature. But that's what we were earlier, what we were talking about when we started to try to define things in terms of distinction and interaction. And now you understand, or you may start to understand why those terms are very important. If we have an absolute, or if we have a uniform, or if we have a constant by which all things, okay, can be defined or supported or come from or are or make up, okay, then the external that we think, okay, the individual, the separate, the unique that we experience, and that we think is, okay, are distinctions then. They're distinctions. And how does a distinction happen? Where does the distinction come from? It comes from an interaction.